How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I know that you've seen the title, and I know that in this video we will be doing something completely different to what I usually do on my channel. It does have something to do with the entertainment industry, so just bear with me a bit. I will be talking about my favorite horror games of all time. And yes, I know that it's really weird because I usually just sit here talking while you have a few photos, but I wanted to rank them. I wanted to put them in a tier list so that all of you guys can see my opinions on these games. And so maybe you guys might like some of my opinions, maybe some of you guys won't. I would love to hear what you guys think. Maybe write down your list down in the comments below and just write what other game or movie or TV show you'd like me to rank. This is just my opinion. It's there's no right or wrong opinion. Obviously, we are all entitled to our opinion. So let's just keep that in mind whenever I do go into all of this, because I might have a few controversial opinions that some of you guys might not like, but it is my opinion. I haven't played some of these games, but I have tried a good 90% of them. It's just some of them I didn't find to be relevant, and I will be explaining why I didn't play some of the games and why some of them might not be relevant to me. But let's just get started into this tier list. So in this tier list, I'm just gonna be kind of separating the way that I would usually do these games. What you can see on your screen, you will be seeing that I'm dividing these games into S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, dog shit, and I just haven't played. Again, I said that I haven't played some of these games, so some of these games might be really good and I just haven't played them, but I have no recollection of playing some of these games. So if you are mad in the comments that I haven't played these games, I probably will be playing them soon because they might be good games, they might not, and I might be updating this tier list pretty soon. But let's just get started into the first game. As you can see down here, I have the first game, Five Nights at Freddy's 1, the game that kickstarted this whole genre and kickstarted this whole, animatronics attacking you, closing the doors, having power, and all of these types of things. It just really brought this idea to life. You didn't have much of a storyline. It didn't really come in with much. You just had a phone guy come in and was like, hey, these animatronics, they suddenly get up and they try to go to you. But, there was enough for Matt Pat from Game Theory to try to, make enough lore out of it. He made an entire, series on these Five Nights at Freddy's games. You have Markiplier, which is, his career was already off, but this just really exponentially increased it. He became the king of FNAF, and just, you have the beginning of so much nostalgia. In my opinion, this game makes me super nostalgic. I used to play it with my, older brother. He was the one that introduced me to these games, and he would constantly, just, I guess, get me to play because, oh, I was the younger brother, I'd get scared a lot more easily. But no, that's not true. In reality, he didn't like the idea of all these animatronics walking around, when I completely loved the idea of this horror game, and I just would constantly play it, on my phone in when I was a lot younger, my parents' phone, my phone, my parents' iPad or something like that. I would just constantly just play it just because I liked it, and I would constantly try to find a new strategy of how to overcome these animatronics. And there's not much you can do. You can either turn on the lights, close the doors, or just look at the security footage. You have Foxy running through the hallway. You have Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica just attacking you on their own separate sides and their own separate techniques of attack. They had different paths that they would take, and it was just really interesting to see. The most interesting thing was when you would be doing a super good run, all of a sudden you'd put the camera down and then you just see Golden Freddy there, and you know that you just instantly die if that happens. It was a really interesting Easter egg, and just something that was really annoying because it ended a lot of my runs at 3 or 4 in the morning. And I just didn't really enjoy it too much. But looking back at it, I look back on it with a lot of nostalgia and a lot of good feeling towards what that was. So I think that, in my opinion, these games are some very amazing games. And so for me, I'd have to put Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Just the way that it did a lot of different things, and just the way that everything just happened with this game was just too amazing to pass up. So for me, if I had to pick, I'd definitely put Five Nights at Freddy's 1 in S tier. It was, for me, the best game of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. And yes, some of you might disagree because, like, obviously there were some games that came out after and they were extremely good too. I just don't think that they're at the level that Five Nights at Freddy's was with its groundbreaking game mechanics. So obviously, we've talked about Five Nights at Freddy's 1. What comes next? What comes next is the second game, basically just Five Nights at Freddy's 2. It's the exact same concept where you have animatronics attacking you, but now they did a change of scenery and they did a lot more animatronics. Instead of having four main ones that attack you, now we have Balloon Boy, we have Mangle, we have the Marionette. And these all have their own separate concept to them. We have the original, like, Five Nights at Freddy's, the animatronics. And then we have some new refurbished ones to look prettier. But they are still equally as creepy when you see them just standing on the other side of a hallway. Or they just walk around in the room that you're in. It's just a really menacing game, and I really enjoyed it. I know that a lot of you probably enjoyed it, but for me, just the way that this game was structured and how it just had that cartoonish look to it, with just Bonnie looking really cartoonish, Chica looking really cartoonish. This was like where I was like really exposed to Jacksepticeye, one of my favorite YouTubers. I know that I talk a lot about content creators when I talk about this, but it's just the way that they revolutionized these games for me. It just makes me a lot more nostalgic when I think about it. The concept of the flashlight that's limited, but the vents that are not, I like that. Because like in the vent system, if that had a limited power, that would have been like just a complete asshole move. Because you basically don't even check the cameras anymore in this game. Now it's just about when you check the camera, it's just to go to the marionette to rewind the jukebox. If any of you guys have played the game before, you know that was the most annoying and tedious part, when you'd see like that little warning sign pop up and you knew that you had to like switch between them to try to get to it. You have everything that just the concept of coming from a vent, and then you have Foxy coming in front of you where you have to flash him with a flashlight. But if Balloon Boy comes in and he takes your batteries of your flashlight, you can't flash him anymore, so you just automatically lose. This was extremely pissing me off when it's like 4 in the morning, like in like a like fifth night speed run. You just have Balloon Boy just come up, steal your batteries, and then there's nothing you can really do about it. And then you're just fucked because you got so far and like tried so hard. But yeah, Balloon Boy, you suck. I don't like you, but there's a lot of hate towards Balloon Boy. I can't even lie, but I do want to say that there's just a lot of things that I wouldn't change this game. There's just a lot of things that I like about the game. Balloon Boy's mechanic made the game way more interesting. I know like I'm probably gonna like be hating on Balloon Boy a lot, but it made the game a lot more interesting and it made it a lot more difficult, which I really liked. And so just with all that being said, I think that we should definitely put just a lot of respect on Five Nights at Freddy's 2 games. I usually don't like sequels. Sequels usually ruin a lot of things for me. A lot of movie franchises and a lot of different stuff. I know that there are sequels that are good. Don't come at me for that. But there are a lot of sequels that just kind of like ruin and tarnish the reputation of the first game. And this didn't do that. This actually made the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise a lot better, brought in a lot more lore, and I just really enjoyed it. So if I had to rank Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is what I'm gonna be doing, but if I had to rank it, I would put it again another S tier game for me. Not quite second place because there are some games that I like a bit more that maybe did a few things better, but I will put it in S tier right next to its original like competitor, and these are just two extremely good games that I really like. And hey, like I said, my opinion, I think that the second game should be an S tier. It definitely did a ton of things right. Now moving on to the third game. I know that a lot of people have like mixed opinions on this, and a lot of people might not like it as much. I personally fall under that category. I know a lot of people might say like, hey, but you've talked so good about the first two games. What's wrong with this game? There's nothing big that's wrong with it. The only thing that I don't like about this game, and it's not the mechanics of like the air and stuff like that. I do like that. It's the fact that we have a lot of phantoms. And it's the fact that we only have one person that can actually attack us, and the other ones are just there to piss me off. It doesn't really make me scared to see a phantom balloon boy pop up in camera and then just come at me, and then you just hear a lot of heavy breathing while I have to reboot all the fucking systems, and just everything just takes like 10 minutes to reboot, and now I have freaking Springtrap coming and attacking me. Balloon boy, you suck. You just piss me off because all you do is you just come and attack me. And I don't like it because you made me reboot all my systems and you made me lose a lot of runs. This is another game that I just really liked. But it did have that aspect that I just didn't like. It had a lot more of a run down like look. You had all the phantoms. Obviously, they're all run down. They all look like they're burned. And then you have obviously Springtrap in his like suit that just looks really broken down, and it's just really cool. But I don't know who would be doing security in one, a place that's haunted, two, a place with only one animatronic, and three, a place where you literally have no escape. You have a door, which usually is where Springtrap comes in from, or that one part that pissed me off where you have a vent right next to your freaking face, and like you basically just can't do anything about it, and he usually tries to go into the vent systems. I didn't like the idea of having like a balloon boy voice lure him like back. I didn't know that for like a few months of playing this game. I was so pissed off because I didn't know what to do. Every time like I just see Springtrap getting closer and closer and closer, and I couldn't do jack shit to defend myself. I just saw Springtrap come at me. I'm like, you know what? I probably deserved it. I probably did. But I don't think so. Like I just think that he was just being an asshole. And I didn't like the way that just Springtrap would constantly get closer to me. So, like, it's just, the game did a lot of things that I just didn't really agree with, but it did a lot of things right. And it definitely brought out more of the lore that, all of these content creators really liked. It had a lot of secret things that I just didn't like. You had a bunch of code in one of the arcade machines, which then that code would take you to, like, a separate, like, little game thing where you would find out more of the lore. The Bite of 87 wasn't in this one, but it would show you scenes like that or just really random video games. And so you just have a lot of things that I just don't really agree with in this game. It did a lot of things right, but it also, for me, it did a few things wrong. So I can't really do too much with the game, but I would personally put it in B tier. It's not the best, but it's not bad. This is like the mid tier for me. It's a good game with a good basis. I just think that its execution kind of failed a bit, and it could have been done a lot better. But so B tier is exactly where I'm going to put it. Next up, we have Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Yes, I know that this game is a bit more controversial. Well, no, it's not really controversial. What am I saying? No, the next few games are controversial. This one is perfectly fine. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is literally the embodiment of the perfect Five Nights at Freddy's game. I personally have a bit more bias towards Five Nights at Freddy's 1 because Five Nights at Freddy's 1 was the one that began the whole thing and it made me get interested in the genre. But Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is just so perfect in the way that it brings a nightmare-esque aspect to the whole game. Obviously, we've all had nightmares. Obviously, we've all struggled with all these types of things. But I just think that the way that you see Five Nights at Freddy's 4 play out, you're in a room, you have behind you, you have in front of you with the closet, you have the two doors, and all you can do, and this is why this game was, for me, the scariest, is you had to listen very closely. So you couldn't play this in a public place. You couldn't play this on the car, on your way to soccer practice or something like that. You had to like actively be in the game. You had to actively be involved. You had to like just like be listening, make sure that you don't hear any breathing, which by the way is weird. Why would an animatronic need to breathe? That's something for a different day. I really like this franchise, and I might go all Matt Pat on you with my theories and lore and just Markiplier being in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, just all these different types of things where, like it's just a lot of conspiracy. But if I'm just going into the basis of the game, I think that this game is just really good, and it did a lot of things right. It like that nightmare aspect where like you like die and then like you hear like that hospital like flatline thing. It brought in a lot more lore. It brought in Nightmare Fredbear. It brought in a lot of things that just made this a lot more of an intimidating game. You have all of the mechanics where you have Foxy where you have to like close the door, open it, and he's like closer or something. You have to open the door, close it. You have to open the door, close it until he becomes like a plushie down there. You get back and you have like 4 fucking demon Freddys on your bed, and so you had to find out a way to combat it, and it just brings multitasking like back, kind of like the second game did, but with a lot more of a hellish twist to it. So personally for me, I would have to put Five Nights at Freddy's 4 in S tier. Like I'd put it in second place. I'd put it between Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and Five Nights at Freddy's 2, just because of how good this game really is. And like just this was one game that I was struggling to play like late at night or early in the morning. It was one that I was struggling to play when it was like dark outside, because like you see that nightmare-ish aspect, and if you don't have any of the lights on, then you start to like kind of imagine all of these like animatronics moving through. But hey, like I just really like this game. I can't put it above nostalgia though. It's just they're both really nostalgic for me. Just Five Nights at Freddy's 1 came first. The next game that I want to talk about is Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location. Yes, I know that a lot of people don't really like Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location, and I am part of those people. I will completely agree that Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location completely just ruined a bit of the genre for me. I didn't like the way that it was set up. I liked the new animatronics. The new animatronics were fine. You had that Freddy with the talking thing next to it, which was kind of menacing in its point. You had Foxy, which had a good twist on the VR game, which I really liked, and I will be going into the VR a bit more specifically a bit later. But you just have a lot going on with this game that I just didn't really like, and it didn't feel like Five Nights at Freddy's to me. It felt like just a completely separate game, which I guess that is what it was trying to do, but it just didn't feel like Five Nights at Freddy's for me. So for me, and I'm not going to give too much of an explanation, it's dog shit for me. Honestly, there's not much that I can do with this game. I want to just speed run 2 of these real quick. I haven't played Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator, or like Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. I didn't think that it was canon, and I didn't think that it had anything to do with the Five Nights at Freddy's lore, and so I just didn't play it. And Five Nights at Freddy's AR, I didn't even know that existed. I thought that it was just a myth. I had heard a lot of rumors going around like YouTube, Twitter, and all these different types of things of a Five Nights at Freddy's AR game. I didn't really know that it existed. It just kind of popped up, and it's on this, so I would like to say that I haven't played those games. I might play these games if I do find them to be interesting enough. I'm gonna see some gameplay on them, and then I'm gonna like see if it's worth the time to play. And if it is, I might update the list a bit. But for now, this is where I'm going to be putting them. Then we have Ultimate Custom Night. This game just brought a different feeling to Five Nights at Freddy's. Obviously, you have Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have obviously ranked them already. And this game, it just brought the best of everything. And I personally really liked it, where you could pick, hey, I want to put Freddy in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 at the max of his ability, and then I just want to have the other one. So now you're just constantly defending against Freddy, and this would do for some really amazing like runs where you'd have Markiplier playing all of these. And this is like, I talk about Markiplier a lot because he is literally the king of FNAF. He self-proclaimed it, and there's nobody that can steal it. I personally feel like sometimes I might be the king, but nah, there's no way that you can beat Markiplier at this. After all the like sweat and hours that he's endured in this game, and him beating a 2020 run was just unheard of. This like it was just completely unhinged, and I remember seeing it in on YouTube when like the video came out like a few years ago. I just really liked it, and I personally really liked it when he went back into these games and just kept on playing them. Five Nights at Freddy's Ultimate Custom Night was just really good because I just really like the concept of being able to customize your own game into being however you want it to be. If I had to rate Five Nights at Freddy's Ultimate Custom Night, I'd have to put it in S tier just because it did everything that all the other Five Nights at Freddy's games did. But it just made you a lot more creative in that sense, and it let people do a lot more of what they wanted to do, which I just think that was a really interesting concept to it. The next game is the newest game of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. It is Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Yes, I know that this game is pretty controversial at some points, and yes, I know that this game doesn't have a lot going for it in some aspects, but in some aspects it does. I like the open world and ray tracing that it had. It had a really good idea behind it. I just think that the game, however, was just, it didn't feel like Five Nights at Freddy's. And if I'm judging it based on a Five Nights at Freddy's game, it ranks pretty low. But if I'm judging it on like just some random horror game that I played where it's like open world, it still doesn't fare up pretty well because it doesn't really do much. It's more of a strategy game other than a horror game. I wasn't really intimidated too much by it. The part that I was mostly intimidated was like when the Moon Man was attacking you in the daycare and you had to turn on the generators because all of a sudden you turn around and then you see that asshole just, just flying around, just waiting for you to like come out, and you'd hear him in the background. But that was really fast, and I beat it in like a couple of minutes because I just understood how to do it. And you just follow the cables to get to the generators. It was just really easy for me. And then you just the way that everything just happens, you kill a lot of the animatronics. It felt more like just an RPG game where you just have a lot of different things going on, and you have to level up so that you can beat the boss at the end, which you do depending on which storyline you take. For me, I was just all about just leave and just don't come back. I wasn't going to stay in there. And so, yeah, like it just didn't have a lot for me. And it didn't feel like a Five Nights at Freddy's game. So if I do have to rank this game, I would personally put the game like at like a B tier with Five Nights at Freddy's 3. And I know that might be weird to say because a lot of people would put it lower. Some people might even put it higher, but for me, I can't put it any higher or lower than what it is because, like, let's just be honest, it just falls flat when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's games. But this next Five Nights at Freddy's game really it brought back the genre for me. You have Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted VR edition. It was just an extremely good ride, an extremely good game, and just being able to play Five Nights at Freddy's on like my VR headset and just being able to like reimburse that nostalgia of playing the first nights of Five Nights at Freddy's 1, playing the like Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and then like having all these different types of settings where you can like repair the animatronics, where you have the Dreadbear DLC. Everything that happened in this game was just so good, and I really enjoyed it. It felt really different, and honestly, like, it's just a really good game to have on a VR headset because it goes perfectly. Like, the horror genre and Five Nights at Freddy's goes perfectly because in the first few games, you're just sitting down, so you have to go press the doors, you get the mask. I don't remember if you have to wind up the jukebox. I'm not exactly sure on that. I haven't played it in a bit. I beat it, and so I just completely just got like off of it, but it is still a really good game, and I think that this one really brought back the genre a bit after it been failing from Sister Location, and then like Security Breach came after, which just made it plummet even more. But the thing that Help Wanted did was it brought the good things of like Sister Location, and it just made it better. Honestly, like it knew what it was doing, and it definitely just tried to make Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location a lot better. With you have the running across the room with all the Foxy animatronics, and you have the whole like repairs with Ennard trying to attack you all throughout, which was really easy, by the way, but it just it had a lot of interesting concepts that came from a lot of the worst games, and it just made it better. And then you have how it made the concepts of the extremely good games just really come to life. And I just think that this game should be like really heavily praised. It's really good. If I had to rank it, and this one might be where I might get a bit tougher, I'd personally put it above Ultimate Custom Night, maybe even above Five Nights at Freddy's 2, because it just brings back Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and it just makes everything so much nicer, in my opinion. I know that like some people might not agree with my opinion on this one, but I do think that it's just being able to reimburse in that Five Nights at Freddy's experience is really important to me. And so now we are on to our last game. This one might be one of my most controversial takes yet. If I'm talking about just, I know that this one doesn't feel like Five Nights at Freddy's or anything, but I do think that like it is worth mentioning that not all games have to be like Five Nights at Freddy's to be a good game. And yes, I know that I said, oh, Sister Location didn't feel like Five Nights at Freddy's. It felt like a completely different game, and I might sound like a hypocrite. But this one is a completely different game, and it is not trying to be a Five Nights at Freddy's game. FNAF World is just a really interesting RPG. You know, you have the Five Nights at Freddy's characters that you love, and then you just have like a lot of like just the weird content that, you know, you have all these glitch doors that you have to go through. You have a rainbow level where like Chica's like Wonderland. You have that where with an annoying ass rainbow with a like fucking just level that it is impossible to beat, and you have to get it with 0 deaths or like X amount of deaths with like all of this less amount of time. You know, you had to do it perfectly, and this made for a lot of funny moments with a lot of YouTubers, a lot of streamers. They were like really raging on this game because you had that like rainbow that would just constantly talk shit to you, and it ended up being like the main villain of the whole entire game, which was an unexpected plot twist for me. Like it just did a lot of things that were unexpected, and you know, it wasn't like the least fun game. I had a lot of fun with it. You know, it felt like Pokemon type where you would be walking around, you'd encounter a battle that you had to do, you fight the battle with your team, and they all had their own separate moves. It felt like a Pokemon with Five Nights at Freddy's mix, which I really did enjoy. Honestly, a lot of people didn't really enjoy it, but I think that it was just really good. And hey, like I said, this is completely my opinion, but I do think that if I had to rank this game, I would put it in a solid B tier, like little A, top of B. I think that it's above Five Nights at Freddy's 3, and that is where I'm probably going to get smoked because a lot of people didn't like this game. It didn't feel very Five Nights at Freddy's-y, but I feel like it knew that. And I feel like that's what it was trying to go for, which is why I respect the game a lot more, and which is why I like it a lot more. Because you have Five Nights at Freddy's sister location, that it definitely wanted to be a Five Nights at Freddy's game, but it didn't feel like it. And you have Security Breach that also tried to be a Five Nights at Freddy's game, but it just didn't feel like it. This one knew that it wasn't going to be one. And so it just completely played off that side. And so at the end, our list is very simple. We have Five Nights at Freddy's 1 in first place. Then Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. We then have Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and Ultimate Custom Night right next to each other. Then we go down to B tier. There's nothing in A tier because I just can't put FNAF World, FNAF 3, or Security Breach in A tier. I just don't think that they deserve to be up there. But Five Nights at FNAF World, then we have Five Nights at Freddy's 3. We then have Security Breach in B tier. Then we have the dog shit game of Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. Nothing was going for it. But hey, that's just my opinion. And then the other two games that I didn't really play because I didn't even know of their existence until I was making this list and I had to be researching about these games. And I'd much rather just say, hey, I haven't really played these games, but like just like I'm gonna be ranking the rest of the games, so I'll just put these in their own separate category. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and I know it was a bit of a different video. It might be a bit more interesting for some of you and it might not. I'm going to be making a few more tier lists, and just tell me if you want to see more. Tell me what type of tier lists you want me to see, maybe you guys have a specific tier list you'd want to send to me down in the comments below. I will be responding to every one of your comments, and if you give me a good idea for a video, I will definitely be making that video. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you have enjoyed. I know that I did enjoy this video, so hey, like I said, it's my opinion, and I respect everyone's opinion in the comments. I really would love to hear them all. So hey, thank you everyone for watching. Subscribe.